Hello guys, welcome to my channel Chem Insider. So in today's class we are going to discuss about some other applications of Ellingham diagram from the chapter of class 12, that is general principles and process of isolation of metals. So in the previous class we discussed about the complete explanation regarding Ellingham diagram. How is it formed and how is it going to work while choosing a reducing agent of suitable metal, okay, for its other metal to metal oxide conversion, metal oxide to metal conversion. So now in this class we are going to discuss more about the Ellingham diagram and its application for extracting some metals from their metal oxides. So for that, before starting going to particular metal, we'll first need to discuss a non-metal carbon, because usually for the reducing some oxides of metal to its respective metal, we usually use carbon as an industrial reagent for reduction, or coke in general, what we say it as. So now, how do we choose this coke as a proper reducing agent in all those reduction processes is, if you have observed in the previous video, I wrote 3 oxidation states of carbon. So out of that carbon reaction, we observed 3 reactions in that. One is carbon reacting with our oxygen to form carbon dioxide. This reaction we generally observe in all the types. Second one is carbon reacting with oxygen to form carbon monoxide. And in the third one, carbon monoxide reacting with oxygen to forming carbon dioxide. This is 3 different reactions of carbon and carbon monoxide as a reducing agent, or how it gets oxidized. If you write the exact physical states of this, we have a solid of carbon reacting with gaseous of oxygen, and we have to balance this. Is 1-1, so no need of balancing this equation. This is the first equation. The second equation has solid carbon with gaseous oxygen. So if we use 2 molecules of carbon, we get 2CO. This is again a gaseous one. And in the third case, we have gaseous carbon monoxide along with gaseous oxygen. So this gives us our third reaction of carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide, which we have written in here. So the 1, 2, 3 is nothing but the reactions forming over there. So now if you observe these 3 reactions, we have gaseous molecule being consumed for the reaction to get oxidizing. Okay, so the gaseous molecule is being consumed for the oxidation process. Now for the formation of delta G curve of formation, what we usually observe is, if there is increase in product formation, as we have discussed earlier, if there is increase in product formation, that indicates that delta S going to be increasing. Increase in product formation, that means delta S increases, that is, it will be becoming more and more positive. So now if you observe these 3 reactions, in the first reaction we are using 1 molecule of gas of oxygen. So we are using 1 molecule of O2 to get 1 molecule of CO2. So we are using 1 molecule of gas to get 1 molecule of carbon dioxide. Since there is no change in delta S, so delta S, what happens is, delta S, there is no change, that will be 0. So entropy changes when the volume of product formed is more than the volume of reactant consumed. So now here there is no change in moles of oxygen or carbon dioxide. So therefore 1 mole of oxygen giving us 1 molecule of carbon dioxide gas. So therefore the entropy of the reaction will be 0. If the entropy of the reaction is 0, that means delta H will be a constant. Therefore the delta G of this reaction will again be a constant, which is a straight line parallel to the temperature curve, temperature axis. That is about the first one. Now for the second one, we have 1 molecule of carbon dioxide, 1 molecule of oxygen is consumed to form 2 molecules of carbon monoxide gas. Ignore this carbon being a solid. We are not considering the solid for component used. We are considering for the gaseous molecules being consumed. So here 1 molecule of gas of oxygen is being consumed to form 2 molecules of carbon monoxide. That means our delta S is increasing. So delta S is positive. If delta S is positive, we have discussed that if delta S is positive, delta G becomes more and more negative. Delta G of formation becomes more and more negative, resulting in the curve going down below with increasing temperature. Okay, with increase in temperature, delta S being a positive value, delta G becomes more and more negative. Therefore, the second curve, that is the formation of carbon to carbon monoxide, goes more and more negative with increase in temperature. And for the third one, we are using 3 molecules of gas. Now we are using carbon monoxide, which is a gaseous unit. So we are 2 plus 1. We are using 3 molecules of gas to get 1 molecule of carbon dioxide gas. Therefore, what we can say is delta S is negative. If delta S becomes negative and with increase in temperature, delta G naught of formation becomes more and more positive, which results in the third curve going towards a positive value with increase in temperature. So this is about the use of carbon or carbon monoxide as reducing agent with respect to its temperature. So what we can conclude from these graphs is, at higher temperature, if you observe carefully, all these 3 equational delta G graphs coinciding or meeting one another at a point of 983 Kelvin. So now we can conclude this as 2 topics. One is before 983 Kelvin, one is after 983 Kelvin. So if you observe over here, at 983 Kelvin, at below 983 Kelvin, what we can say is, below 983 Kelvin, we have carbon monoxide. Below 983 Kelvin, we have the carbon monoxide curve. So the third curve, we can use carbon monoxide as a good reducing agent. So below 983 Kelvin, we can use carbon monoxide. Below 983 Kelvin, we can use carbon monoxide as a good reducing agent. And above 983 Kelvin, we can use carbon as good reducing agent. So this is above 983 Kelvin, we can use carbon as good reducing agent. And below 983 Kelvin, we can use carbon monoxide as good reducing agent. Okay, so we have 2 conclusions. If we have to use at a higher temperature, we can use carbon as a good reducing agent, and below 983 Kelvin, we can use carbon monoxide as a good reducing agent. Okay, so this is about the application of Ellingham diagram for using carbon as a respective reducing agent. Next, we are going to discuss about different applications of Ellingham diagram using the extraction of certain metals from their ores. So in this, for that, we are going to extract iron from its ores: hematite, siderite and magnetite. We are going to use 3 ores of iron: hematite, magnetite and siderite. Even though being hematite is a preliminary ore, we are going to explain some bits using our siderite and magnetite ore also. So now, for the 3 ores of iron, we have hematite, magnetite and siderite. Hematite is a formula Fe2O3.H2O, right? Fe2O3.H2O along with SiO2, etc. And we have magnetite with Fe3O4, siderite with Fe2CO3. So these are the 3 ores which we are going to use for extraction of iron. So first what we have to do is we completely follow the 3 steps of extraction. So the first one is we have to increase the concentration of our metal in its ore. So for concentration, what we do is we are going to take the complete finely powdered metal ore and we are going to wash this with hydraulic washing process. So once we do that, what we are going to lose is we completely lose away the impurities such as sand and mud. We are going to completely lose the impurities such as sand and mud because of hydraulic washing, along with some amount of silicates. Once that is done, what we are going to do is, this is once after, we are losing this after concentration processes. Next, what we have to do is, since all these compounds except for the siderite are of oxide compounds, Fe2O3 and Fe3O4 are oxide compounds, first we need to calcinate them. So once calcinated, Fe2O3 gives us FeO and oxygen molecules along with some sulfur, SiO2, etc. And Fe3O4 going to give us FeO Fe3O4 going to give us FeO again. And in case of cigarette, we are going to roast them. Once it forms Fe2CO3, on roasting gives us FeO and CO2. So this is about the conversion, calcination, or increasing its extraction of crude metal. So here what we are going to get is FeO with respect to each other. Once that is done, we are going to reduce this FeO using our reducing agents. So this reduction can be done using a blast furnace. For the extraction of metal from its oxide form, we are going to use blast furnace. So in this blast furnace, what you are going to observe is, we are going to take the finely powdered ore of this hematite, magnetite and siderite and combining them with coke and limestone in the ratio of 8:3:1. We are going to take 1 molecule of limestone for 3 molecules of coke and 8 molecules of ore. So once this is done, we are going to introduce them to the blast furnace, which is a huge brick wall of about 35 meters long. So in this chamber, we have 2 inlets of blast hot air. So this hot air, what it does is, it increases the temperature inside this blast furnace. So once the ore is introduced into this blast furnace, because of the very high temperature of the hot air at for about 2200 Kelvin, carbon gets oxidized or carbon gets burnt away. So those reactions can be discussed as now. So the reactions which we observe here are so we're going to study them according to the temperature range. So first at 2200 Kelvin, that is our combustion zone. At combustion zone, what we observe is carbon burns with oxygen to form carbon monoxide, and further carbon again can react with oxygen to form carbon dioxide. We are going to get 2 types of this. One is carbon reacting with oxygen to get carbon monoxide, and carbon again reacting with excess of oxygen to form carbon dioxide. So these are the 2 reactions which we observe in the combustion zone, which is at a temperature of 2200 Kelvin range, approximate 2200 Kelvin range. That is about the combustion zone. So once this combusted carbon dioxide is formed, they are going to evaporate, or they are going to move upwards of the blast furnace along with our hot air. So the gases released, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, move towards the upper part of blast furnace because of the continuous motion of air, as we have an outlet over here for the waste gases. Once this carbon monoxide moves to the upper part of the region, what it does is, at around 900 Kelvin, it reduces our ferrous compounds, Fe ferrous oxide compounds. That is our second stage at reduction zone. So as I said earlier, at reduction zone we have a temperature of about 900 Kelvin, right? We have temperature of 900 Kelvin. So this is clearly less than the 983 Kelvin temperature range of our given component of carbon monoxide. So below 900 Kelvin, carbon monoxide can be used as a strong reducing agent. So therefore, the carbon monoxide which is released at the combustion zone is going to reduce ferrous oxide to ferric. So we are going to react FeO with CO to form Fe plus CO2. So this is about the reaction which is going to occur at our 900 Kelvin temperature range. Further, we have more reactions such as Fe3O4 further reacts with carbon monoxide. Fe3O4 further reacts with carbon monoxide to form Fe with 3 molecules of carbon dioxide. So they again form Fe with carbon dioxide. So these are the various reduction reactions happening at reduction zone at 900 Kelvin. So at this temperature range of 900 Kelvin, which is below 983 Kelvin for carbon monoxide, it acts as a strong reducing agent. Hence, it reduces FeO to Fe and CO2. Okay, it reduces FeO to Fe. So this is at the reduction zone. Once this is done, at the third range of 1200 Kelvin, that is the slag zone. At 1200 Kelvin, the silicas present in the ore, the silicates, sulfur or silicates present in the ore, sulfur or silicons. silicates present in the ore react with the limestone which we have adding. So here limestone is nothing but a slag formation, flux for removing our slag. So the limestone which we add is calcium carbonate. This calcium carbonate reacts with, undergoes decomposition at a temperature to form calcium oxide and carbon dioxide, and this calcium oxide reacts with our sulfur dioxide or silicon dioxide to form calcium silicate, CaSiO3. This, which on melting is removed on the other part called as a solid waste. So these silicate impurities or sulfur impurities are removed by treating them with limestone, which acts as a flux with the gangue and forms a slag. This slag is on molten state removed as a solid waste. Next, what we are left with is a pure iron molecule. So further at 1700 Kelvin, if there are some of the ferrous oxide compounds left, so those ferrous oxide compounds will be reacting with our carbon. If there is presence of some ferrous oxide components which are not getting reduced at 900 or 1200 Kelvin, once they reach the range of 1700 Kelvin, we have an excess of carbon forming at the 2200 Kelvin. So at that particular time, what happens is we observe the fourth reaction. So I'm going to write down these reactions. And now we are going to observe the fourth reaction, that is fusion zone. So in this fusion zone, what we are going to observe is the fusion zone at 1700 Kelvin, carbon reduces our leftover ferrous oxide to form Fe and carbon monoxide. So this carbon monoxide again can be used with other components also. So this reaction, if you observe over here, what it does is carbon monoxide with FeO is giving us Fe. So now how all these reactions are going to take place? So this can be explained by a consideration of thermodynamic stability examples. Let us say I am considering the reaction with a graph. So at a certain temperature, we have observed that FeO reaction is like this. Fe plus O2 gives FeO, right? So this is our reaction. And we have carbon to carbon monoxide reaction in this range. Carbon plus O2 gives carbon monoxide. Okay. So now, for explaining the reduction of FeO with Fe or FeO with carbon monoxide, let us consider one example of this. That is reaction or reduction of FeO to Fe using carbon. So if you observe this reaction, this is a combination of reduction and oxidation. So I am going to split that reaction completely. First, FeO reduces to form Fe and half molecule of oxygen, right? Fe is going to break down as Fe and half molecule oxygen, and carbon is going to react with half molecule of oxygen to form carbon monoxide. So this is a reaction. On combining the overall reaction, what we get is the C plus FeO giving us Fe plus CO reaction. So the delta G of formation, delta G of formation for Fe plus O to Fe, delta G of formation of Fe to FeO. Observe here, we are observing the delta G of formation of Fe to FeO was found to be plus 341 kilojoules, and for the carbon to carbon dioxide conversion, we observe the delta G of reaction going to be minus 440 kilojoules. So if you add these two, what we are going to get is delta G of formation of this reaction, delta G naught, is going to be minus 99 kilojoule per mole. So if you observe over here, our delta G for this reaction is negative. So this reaction is possible because of its negative delta G value. So whenever we have to use a reducing agent, what we have to do is, as I said in the previous video, the reducing agent should reduce this metal oxide in such a way that the overall reactions delta G will be negative. If it isn't negative, then the reaction is not going to be happening. Okay, so these are the different reactions occurring during the extraction of iron oxide to iron. Okay, so this iron which we have extracted over here, once the molten iron which is formed, is called the pig iron. So this pig iron is treated with other old leftovers of the previous batch and converted into solid bricks, and that bricks are called as cast iron. This molten pig iron is mixed with the old pig irons of the previous batch and some other impurities like carbon, etc. It has about 3 to 4% of carbon, and those impurities are once treated with coke and heated once again and cast into different types of bricks in the form of bricks, and that is called as our cast iron. Okay, so this cast iron, on further heating and reduction and calcination with burning with absence of oxygen, we are completely going to remove all the impurities of carbon, etc. And then we are going to prepare our purest form of iron, that is our wrought iron, which is about 99% pure in its state, whereas cast iron is about 97% pure. Okay, so this is about the extraction of iron in blast furnace using suitable reducing agents at low and high temperature. What we do is, at low temperature we use carbon monoxide and at high temperature we use carbon. So how are we going to use that or select that reactions? I explained in the previous topic, that is about the Ellingham diagram of carbon, carbon monoxide and carbon to carbon dioxide reactions. Okay, so this is all about for today. If you have any doubt regarding this explanation, please do comment down below. You can also mail me at my mail address which I have given in the description box. Please do like my channel and subscribe to my channel in order to get more videos, and share among this our friends so that they can get use of these videos. Thank you for watching.